You got your mama's sunshine, you got your daddy's rain. You're like a piece of heaven in a hurricane. And it's bubbling over.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's podcast. This is Off the Mountain. I'm Josh Vietti. This is Tom Touchstone, Pastor Tom Touchstone, Pastor Ron Vietti, and Vince Sear. I don't always refer to you guys as pastors because you're my dad, for one, and Tom, you're a friend of my family's forever. And so we are kind of all family here. Vince and I grew up together. We're like brothers. So we have a pretty
tight crew.
Yeah, a tight crew, exactly. So let me just, so today we're going to continue our talk from last week about health. And we're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about mental health even. And just to give you a little quick background, first of all, if you haven't listened to last week's podcast, go back and listen to it. But Pastor Tom, he used to be a professional bodybuilder. He was actually Mr. California in 1985. And that's a big deal. Back when he used to work out in the same gym as Arnold, and he has these stories about those old Gold's Gym moments in Venice Beach, and really fun to talk to him about those things. Pastor Ron is a pastor, but you would say that nutrition is kind of your passion?
It's a passion. I've had 3 cancers, and 2 of them very serious cancers. And so that kind of got me started on something that I always loved anyway. When I went to college, I loved the health classes. Yeah. And so I've always had an interest in it. But of course, when I get 2 cancers, both of them having the ability to kill me, I got very serious about it. And so I think if I wasn't pastoring today, I'd want to be teaching a health class at some college, because it's kind of like my 3rd or 4th love.
Well, it's interesting. I think I know, I don't just think, and Tom and I have talked a lot about this. I know that health is not just physical health. It's also your mental health and your spiritual health. I'm starting to believe that it's kind of like a pyramid tier. Like if you don't have your mind set first, then you can't really do.
It's holistic.
You can't really have the discipline to work on your body, and then ultimately you will miss out on spiritual things. How many men have you known, or I'm thinking of some people or women who spiritually they were top notch, they were amazing, but they didn't take care of their bodies, and they probably passed away before they should have, or maybe they've been sick. And so what we're talking about today is we're not talking about getting ripped. We're not talking about, getting buff, which Tom can tell you how to do that. Trust me. He can tell you exactly how to do that. And maybe you'll get a little bit of that from him today, but he has other podcasts where he talks about that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Going back to that though, Josh, when we're talking about dieting, which we talked quite a bit about last week, there's a diet for producing muscle that might not be healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then there's a diet that's really healthy for you that might not produce muscles.
It depends on what you do. It depends on your age. If you're an athlete and you're young, absolutely build muscle.
Now, I'm a plant-based guy. That's what I am. I'm not vegetarian, and I'm definitely not vegan, but I do have a plant-based diet. 80% of my diet is plant-based. Now, everybody has to come up with their own opinion on that. But I know now if I wasn't plant-based, I could put more muscles on. But for me personally, a plant-based diet is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And Pastor, you've talked a lot about it. It's purpose. What's our purpose? You being at over 70, you're not going to want a heavier muscle physique. I mean, you when you're young, you might, but you can't sustain it.
Well,
and I can tell you this, as you were talking about it, Josh, how a spiritual person may not have the maybe mind and the body together. I can tell you this from experience. I lived 34 years before I got saved. You could be the other way around. You could be fit and you could be that, but you're missing the spirit. And I think that is the key to blend it all in. I think that's the first.
Well, even mental, and you talked about this, Tom. There's a lot of guys in the gym these days, and women too, who are taking certain substances that are causing them to have mental health issues too.
Oh, absolutely.
And so it all ties together, is what we're saying.
They're welcoming in those things into their life by what they're doing.
Body, soul, and spirit. There's 3 connections there.
There is.
So I want to talk about diet first, but before that, let me just say something real quick. If you guys don't know, I've dealt with some mental health issues, depression specifically. I was diagnosed officially last year with depression, and I went away to this place. I think I talked about it last podcast, but I went to this place where I checked in for a month, and it's a place in Edmonds, Washington. It's called the Center, a Place for Hope. And I went there, and they treat you as a whole person. They treat the whole person. That's their whole motto. And that means diet, that means exercise. They give you a free membership to the gym there, which is amazing. You can just walk right down there to it. For the month that you're there or however long you're there. They feed you salads and really, I mean, some of the best salad I've ever had in my life. They feed that to you every single day. And they ask you to not drink alcohol, to not have any sugar. They don't allow you to have kombucha even, because kombucha has sugar in it, or alcohol, sorry. But they want you to just eat really healthy, because that has an effect on your mental health. And so, and then on top of that, I'm a believer and they are believers there. And I was able to go through a Bible class each day. And that idea of treating the whole person, I was treated like that. That's the only way to me to actually become healthy. It has to be all three.
It's the only way that works.
It has to be all three. I really think that.
Yeah, because the Spirit has guided me. And when I say Spirit, as a Christian, of course, my connection to God is very important to me. And at one point in my journey on health, he told me, when I say God told me through a set of circumstances to start drinking water. And as I look back, that was key to my healing, especially in my joints.
It's interesting because we talk about God in three persons, right? The Trinity,
right?
The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. If you think about that, that also has to do with our health. I mean, think about it. God is like the mind, right?
Yes.
He's the head.
Yes.
Jesus was the body, right? That walked on this earth, and then the Holy Spirit's the Spirit. And so we have this in all throughout Scripture, and we have to learn how to do this. And so, starting with diet, let's go there first. And you have a passion for something that you have a passion against something I have a passion for. Sometimes I love sugar. And I've had depression, and now I'm learning that there's a link between the two. So I have to cut down
Frosted
my
Flakes.
sugar.
They're more than good. They are great, and that's what we've grown up believing. Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
And many scientists today are saying that sugar is one of the biggest threats to human health. I was reading the other day, and someone compared sugar addiction to cocaine addiction.
Wow.
It's a drug.
High sugar intake is connected to diabetes. Now, a lot of people out there today don't think diabetes is real serious. It's really serious.
Super serious.
I mean, probably 30 years ago, if you would have talked to me about diabetes, like, oh, well, diabetes isn't a big thing. Oh, my goodness, is it? Some of you out there listening to me might be pre-diabetic, and you better watch it. But high intake of sugar is linked to obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, some cancers. But yet, when we're talking about sugar, let's give it a fair, a fair play here.
Sure.
Sugar provides energy that our cells need to survive. Yeah. And so we do need sugar.
But that's why there are natural sources, right?
But we need natural sugar, not added sugars, not sugar spikes. For example, the fiber in fruits, it slows down the digestion of sugar, and it releases sugar slowly into your system. What you want to avoid is the sugar spikes. And unnatural sugar is killing us. It's killing us. And like some of the fruit drinks, we were talking about this some time ago. I was in the store with someone a while back, and they go, I'll be healthy today. And they grabbed a fruit drink, some kind of fruit drink off of the cold shelf. And I said, can I show you something?
Like a juice?
Yeah, a juice. 38 grams of sugar in it. A lot of that was added sugar.
Yeah.
And when you want to think of grams of sugar, I think it's the American Heart Association that says that the average person takes in between 75 and 80 grams of sugar a day. Now, in order for you to really get the full scope of this, if you get those little sugar C&H bags, little bags of sugar, they're about 4 grams a piece. So if you take in 80 grams of sugar a day, you're talking about 20 of those bags. Now think about that. You're going to start your day out, take 20 of those bags and dump them into a glass. You'll have several inches of sugar and say, you're supposed to eat this in the next 24 hours. You go, man, no way.
No way, right?
But you're doing that. You're putting the sugar in your body, and then again is going to play into all kinds of sickness and disease.
I love when you talk about the fruit, how the fiber, like the skin of an apple, helps you with the digestion of the sugar from the apple, right? We were when we go to a drive-through, try to eat healthy through drive-through occasionally. Let us wrap this,
Right.
let us wrap that.
Yeah.
But for my kids, they give you milk, or they give you an option of milk or
Juice.
right?
Right, yeah.
Usually like apple juice.
Yeah.
Apple juice is pretty bad because it's the sugar from the apple, but it's not the
No fiber.
it's not the fiber from the apple. So what we've decided to do, and this is what I do, I love soft drinks. I love like sodas and I love sugar. And so what I do is I actually just we'll order for them a little bit of carbonated water, which they love. And splash we just say splash a little bit of lemonade in there.
Dilute it.
Dilute it. And so it's a lot less for my kids. Because and you know what, right now, like we're using sugar as a reward. And so I just don't know. I don't know if we should be doing that. But
Well, Josh, I'm going to give a shout out to Olivietti because she told me a story today when I was here.
6-year-old.
Yeah, a 6-year-old. She told me she had a choice. You're doing a good job. You're learning from your dad. She said she had a choice
Learning
to
from mom.
eat a sugary cereal or the veggie plate, and she chose the veggie plate. And her mom was proud of her. So good job, all.
You ought to
all
watch
comes
Josh's
from
kids.
her
It
mom.
blows me away.
Yeah.
Ashley does a good job with them.
She does.
I watch them scarf down seaweed all the time.
love seaweed.
They scarf it down because they were introduced to it when
Yes.
they were younger.
Yeah,
That's
seaweed, and now they like bars, and that could be like anything. But usually we carry some like kind bars.
Right, right,
They're more
yeah.
nuts and a little bit of honey.
That's
I don't
good.
know.
Well,
Well, even in my I know Tom does this. I start my day out with, I think most of you do, with a protein shake. And I have plant-based protein, but I'll put 2 apples in there with the skins. I don't know why people eat fruit without the skins. They peel them. That's dumb. You need the skins. That's where the fiber's at. And I'll put in a couple apples and maybe a piece of banana and blueberries, which are very good for you. And I'll put them in, and then I'll throw 15, 16, 18 almonds or walnuts in there to get more fiber in my shake. So the sugar is released on
I
a
think I
slower-
told you guys I started putting
basis.
maple syrup in my protein shake. Just a little bit though, just to give it a little bit of sweetener naturally.
You're taking the elf route.
I'm taking the elf route. Yeah.
Yeah,
Does it
yeah.
have sugar? Yes. Then I want it. No, but yeah, I think that's huge. And it's funny because you talk about sugar and where it comes from. Sometimes it comes from just unexpected areas, things that you don't expect to have sugar. Like a lot of people might not know, like breads naturally
Yeah, a
have
lot.
sugar in it, or these different things that we eat. We were backstage the other day and we went for some beef jerky, and one of the guys, I believe it was Justin, turned it around and he's like, "This has 6 grams of sugar in it," and we just all looked at each other like, "Beef jerky, like wow." But
when I go to the
Marinade, yeah.
store and Debbie sends me over to get bread, first thing I look at on the bread is fiber. I want to see 3 or 4 grams. I went to my cupboard now in relationship to what you just said.
Okay.
And I pulled out some bread, 3 grams of sugar in each slice. And we get pretty healthy bread. Marinara sauce, 5 grams, ketchup, 3 grams. But get this, I don't understand this. Organic reduced milk had 14 grams of sugar. Sweet pickle, 7 grams. And what you have to know, and I became knowledgeable of a few years back, that cancer thrives on sugar. Sugar, if you ever go up to a goldfish bowl and put some food in there,
Right.
that's what sugar does for cancer, except the fish are the cancer cells eating the sugar.
And you have to watch the back of labels sometimes, because sometimes you'll pick something up and you'll go, "Oh, it only has 7 grams of sugar." And then it's like per serving. So it's like you only eat 3 of those things. And it's like all of a sudden you have 21 grams of sugar.
That is so important.
It's
In my
servings.
health classes, I teach label reading. And so you will look and you'll go, only 6 grams sugar, not too bad. But how many servings is in
Right.
that bottle?
And you could down the bottle like that.
Like-
And then you go, oh no, this had like 4 servings in the bottle.
And then to get you credit, you talk about natural flavoring.
Now, okay, see, I teach people to read labels. When we go to the grocery store, Debbie doesn't like to shop with me. Because if we go in the grocery store, I'm in there like 2 hours because I'm reading the labels on everything I'm picking up. If you see something called natural flavors, automatically the FDA allows you to put all kinds of bad stuff under those natural flavors. And so once I see that, I put it right back on the shelf. But you see the dyes in the food. You see these long terms you can't pronounce. A lot of those are really bad for you. So here's what our government tells us. You know what? There's not enough of this. Yes, it's poisonous. But you know what? There's not enough in there to really hurt you. Well, if you culminate this stuff, if you put it all together and keep eating a lot of it, it's going to amount to enough to hurt you.
I
And
love-
so
I
Well,
love-
that's with my kids. I don't want to develop. them having a candy every once in a while, or a juice from Jamba Juice or whatever, that's fine. It's not going to hurt them right now, but I don't want to develop long-term habits because sugar's a drug.
Well, and it's an addictive substance. If you try to kick it, and then get back on it, or just a lot of times, hey, during the holiday season, I'm eating whatever's there because I've been the other route before where I made people's lives miserable because I was so strict.
Oh, Tom.
Yes. So as I partake, I'll feel it, the effects of it on my body. Where you had to be away from it for a while to feel it, and then as you do, you try to go back the other way.
Well, if you quit sugar cold turkey, which I've tried to do before, actually, I tried to quit caffeine and sugar at the same time.
Bad idea.
And I was terrible. I was the worst person to be around, and I had major withdrawal symptoms.
You know what Tom said, though, is so important, because I went through a phase where I was such a health nut that I made people's lives miserable around me. And I remember one day going out to eat with someone, and it was during the time that I was dying of cancer. I was told I was dying. But man, there was nothing on the menu, and I made everybody uncomfortable. And so I've learned that my God is big enough that in certain situations you go out, and the fellowship or the being with your loved ones is more important than the diet at that moment.
Yeah.
One bad meal is not going to hurt you.
You just make
so you got to have balance.
You just make healthier choices.
I enjoy food a lot. What do you guys think about intermittent fasting? Have you guys looked into
I want to
that?
stop and finish with sugar first,
Okay.
can I?
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
finish with sugar.
Yeah, I'm with it. And I have a question for you about sugar too, so we can.
I like to talk about solutions more than I do problems.
Okay.
We always state the problems and we don't give the solutions. What are some of the things you can do to live with this sugar, craving? For example, I've learned through the years that if I really have a sweet tooth and I really want sugar, I grab 5 or 6 almonds, eat them. And I read that somewhere, and it really satisfies your craving. Staying full of healthy food helps me. Water consumption. If I'm drinking the water I'm supposed to be drinking, and substitution. The other day, I asked you guys if I could get the kids some ice cream. And so we're going to have root beer floats. And I knew that I had not been doing very well on my diet. And my wife tells me all the time, you'll be sorry if you drink that. And I can't stop at 1 root beer float. I'm going to do 5. That's what I do.
Right.
And so the kids brought the ice cream in, and I'm sitting there just salivating, going, oh. But I ran it real quick, and I made myself a protein shake. And it had enough sweetness in it that it took care of the problem of sugar. Now, I know you're dying to ask something or say something.
No, I was just going to ask, because I think a lot of people listening is like, well, if I can't eat the sugar, then I'll get the sugar-free version, or I'll get the fat-free version. They think that's the healthy alternative to no sugar. Sugar-free.
A lot of the artificial sweeteners cause a lot of problems, man. I'm telling you. Some of the diet stuff, you better watch out. Now, I do use stevia occasionally because I haven't heard anything bad on that yet. But I also used to carry around some little miniature chocolate chips. And you don't have to eat the whole cow.
Right.
And if I get a sweet tooth, I'd pop one in and suck on it for 5 minutes, and it worked. Coffee. If I go by Starbucks sometimes, I'll put stevia in it. And so there's all kinds of things you can substitute.
But probably going, because a lot of people think, well, drinking Diet Coke is a healthier version of Coke, and I'll be okay.
No.
Right, but like we talked about in the last part, lack of knowledge, not knowing, thinking that you're getting something good by replacing it with something sugar-free isn't always good for
What does
your
the Bible
health.
say? Lack of knowledge, people perish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I know it's sugar. I completely know, because I went for it.
How
And
much sugar? How much sugar is in that?
Well, none. It's sugar-free.
It's sugar-free, but I know.
It's sugar-free, but it has some things in here.
It was the compromise for me today, though, because I know I needed caffeine.
Yes.
I didn't want coffee because I already had 2 shots of
Citric
espresso,
acid,
and so I went
taurine.
for the sugar-free.
Natural and artificial flavors, which you said is a blanket term, right? And it could be anything. Sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda.
I chose my poison today, Josh. I know this, and I knew opening myself up, because I knew today
has
when I grabbed the
you know that
sugar-free version of this that it wasn't the healthier option, but it was the one that I needed today to get through
It
the
has
day.
aspartame in it, which is shocking, because I think that didn't they outlaw like actual aspartame?
They really-
Where'd you find that out, Vince?
Don't shame me on
Here,
the
I'm gonna
podcast right
hide
now.
the
Thank you. I have it turned this way. No worries.
Wow, dude, it has aspartame.
Oh wow.
Well, as you talk about this,
As
and
I'm drinking sugar.
it's
didn't
one of
outlaw
those things that
no.
I think people that are out there, you want to tell them, make a wise choice. We were laughing earlier. I used to tell people when they want to talk about diets and you don't want to throw something like harsh on somebody, say if you're eating 2 Big Macs, eat 1.
There you go.
That's I mean,
Make
it's-
some
Start
forward
somewhere.
progress.
You've just started someplace. Even,
Well, Tom, your idea of journaling what you eat is huge.
It's
I
huge.
think like writing down everything you eat. You told me to do that when I was lifting weights, and then when I was in high school, you were training me for football, and
Which you did
wanted,
amazingly.
and you wanted me to eat more, and so you said and better quality calories, and so you would just write it down, and then have me write it down, and then
if people
Just
come
add
to me all the
stuff to
time and they'll talk about food, and I'll say, they're like, "Why don't I eat that much?" I go, "Well, write it down," and they're like, "Wow, I do eat a lot of that." It's crazy.
Right now Pastor Ron just left. He got up and left. I think he's gonna come back and flag us for because Josh is drinking sugar and I have sugar free.
Well, so what I have is I diluted.
That's good.
I
You
love
used-
Red Bull, so
right.
I actually poured carbonated water mostly in this cup, and then a little bit of Red Bull for the flavor. I like the flavor of Red Bull. I don't know what flavor it is, but I
Right.
like it, and so it's a lot less sugar.
I know it's hard because sometimes you have to choose, like when we talked about in the last podcast, when you're going, you're traveling. Today we're traveling, we're on the mountain. You kind of have to, you're out of your routine, right? So if I was at home, I would have just, made myself some coffee and I would have got through the caffeine. But when you're traveling, it's a lot harder. So sometimes you have to choose, man, what caffeine are you going to take? And so
there's
all those things happen.
There's something online. It was originated through Men's Health called Eat This Not That. And I think it's actually a website now. You can just look it up, and it will tell you when you're out and about, like which items at like a drive-through is better for you than the other thing. And it's there are
allows
little
you to-
things.
yes.
Tom and
There
I
are
try to
little
look up
things.
Whole Foods restaurants when we're traveling. And I can actually sometimes eat healthier in Whole Foods than I can at home. They have an organic section. I pile that salad on there, put some oil and vinegar instead of
it's funny.
salad dressing.
I will go into Whole Foods and get their pizza because it's so good. And it's not good for you at all. So I have a special skill of finding the least, the worst thing for you in the best place.
I've noticed that. I have really noticed that.
It's like one of those metal detectors. You will find the substance.
I'll find it.
Eat your healthy food first. Eat your veggies first.
Yeah.
Before you eat the tasty stuff.
Well, the whole mantra of you don't live to eat, you eat to live.
Yes.
Is huge because it's fuel. That's what.
And then again, Josh, think about it. Some people are sacrificing their health for 5 minutes of pleasure because 15 minutes after you eat, your body doesn't remember what you ate. It just knows it's filled.
Well, it's a
so
drug.
for that 5 minutes, and we talked about recreational eating last week.
Yeah.
Some people, it's an experience, and I like recreational eating. I like to, every once in a while, as a splurge, go to a cool restaurant with the cool vibes, man.
Well, it's also like if you're really disciplined in your diet and you go to Disneyland once, a year, or we go to the fair or whatever it is, then you can look
have to
forward to
splurge.
that
You have to
and just go
splurge.
nuts, because you've been disciplined. It's a reward.
It's what you do most of the time. 365 days you get in the year. So you're bad, 20, 25,
Right.
30 of those. One's going to outweigh the other.
And then again, Tom, doesn't it motivate you? If and I personally take a cheat day. And if I know that cheat day is coming in 10 days, it really drives me to be strict because that cheat day's coming. Now, what I'm bad about is when I have a cheat day, I have a really cheat day. I mean, I might eat a bunch of tacos and burritos and hamburgers and go right across the street and have a banana split right afterwards. If I'm going to cheat, I'm going to cheat.
And you make yourself sick is what you do.
I do. But then I don't want it anymore.
I know if my wife and I are about to go out to eat and we're not going to go somewhere super healthy, I'll try to put in more time at the gym that day, run an extra mile, whatever I can, just to try to offset what I know I'm about to get myself
and that's
into.
a good practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a compromise. I know it's probably not the best.
You have to find a lifestyle you can live with.
Right.
You can live with
Well,
it.
isn't that you go back to you can't let it control you.
Right.
You have to let it be part of what your lifestyle.
Well, discipline's huge, and discipline is the foundation for being healthy in every way, right? Your food, your diet, your
But discipline carries over in every area.
your
Your
workouts,
diet,
yeah.
your workout, your study time, your career. And we had a whole podcast they want to go back and look on discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a trainer that I follow online, and he was saying that, Don Saladino is his name, and he was saying that consistency is more important than intensity, and I thought that was interesting.
true.
That's interesting.
It's true.
Showing up.
Just showing up.
Showing up.
Yeah, just
Hey,
showing up.
10-minute rule. I don't feel like going to the gym today, but I can do 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was Matthew McConaughey, one of these actors that really values health. He had a mantra: just tie your shoes. Get your shoes on, put
There
your
you
running
go.
shoes on, tie your shoes, and then you're halfway there. You get out. You're going to get outside and you're going to do something. We were talking about people that may not have enough money to have a gym membership. Although, man, like places like Planet Fitness and this new
YMCA?
shoes, gym. There are a lot of options. YMCA is actually more expensive than you think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, well, in certain areas in Ventura. it was.
Yeah, Venturas. Yeah, that's pricey.
But you can get a gym membership for cheap. But you can also just walk around the block and start
And
jogging.
do 10 push-ups a day.
You can do-
and 20 sit-ups. Start
Yeah,
there.
Definitely get a pull-up bar. All those things that you can. Right now, people are fire selling.
The pandemic,
their
people stocked
workout
up.
equipment
They are doing that.
There's some good deals right
If you
now.
want, to get into running,
yeah.
have your wife drop you off in a very scary area.
Yeah.
Whether it's in town or the mountains or wherever.
Right.
And you'll run.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, that is funny.
But let's go a different direction here too. We talked about diet. We talked about exercise, stress. Oh my gosh. Last week, I know I got off on stress. Stress for me is a major killer. And you've got to go back last week and listen to the broadcast. Stress is killing the cells and DNA in your body that's essential for immunity. And I mean, just any kind of stress.
And based off of what we talked about last week, Tom, we talked about the fight or flight syndrome and how it releases adrenaline in your bodies. But you said there's a third, phenomenon coming on with fight or flight. It's fight, flight, or freeze. Right? And so a lot of people, they freeze or they fold, and basically they have that spike of adrenaline. They do nothing with it. And it's toxic. It really is.
It's toxic in your body if you don't do anything with it.
It really is.
It's there. It's one of those drugs that they've tried to duplicate, right?
We have to win over stress, Tom. We have to.
Yeah.
Well, stress foils everything. Stress will foil a good diet. It'll foil a workout routine. It'll foil a good job. I mean, it's something that people have to deal with.
It's also a huge distraction from your life.
It is.
I mean, when you wake up in the morning, if you had it written down on your refrigerator or next to your bed, write down, what are your priorities? Who are your priorities? It's like, I'm going to be there for my family. I'm going to be there for my church. I'm going to be there for my community. Focus on those things. And then when stressful events come, you have two choices, or you have really one choice. You can either control the situation, you can handle it, or you can't. There are a lot of things in our lives that you can't control. And if you can't control it, why spend time worrying about it, right? It goes along with your worry jar that you were talking about.
Well, you know what? Sometimes people don't appreciate good health till they lose it. Some time ago, everybody knew for a year or two, I had a bad hip, and I was limping when I walked. And at one point, I thought, man, I'm going to be using a walker in 2 or 3 years if it continues to get bad. On my healing journey with God, and I put God into everything, I was able to overcome that. And I probably told your mother probably 10 times or 15 in the last 4 months, I'll be walking somewhere and I'll go, wow. It feels so good to be walking without any pain. It's unbelievable. People don't appreciate walking without pain. And then also, when we're on diet, let me say one thing that I wanted to say is that I'm going to give you a word picture. And we'll talk about it in a few minutes. I want to talk about some other issues first. I probably should wait and talk about this.
You're fine.
Okay, but I'm going to
Jump in.
tell people now. Preservatives, pesticides, all of this stuff, it's stress involved. All this stuff is producing free radicals in our body.
What about GMOs? Is that part of that too?
GMOs, genetically modified organisms.
Yeah.
We don't even know what those are going to do to you. We don't know yet. We haven't had a long-term experience with those. But what's happening is free radicals. I heard it explained this way years ago. Free radicals are what's causing cancer, disease, everything. They're bad. They get in your body and they're bad. So picture free radicals like campfire smoke.
Okay.
Okay, so this campfire smoke, when you get free radicals from stress, from taking pesticides in, preservatives in, stress is causing free radicals. What happens is like a campfire is built inside of you, and all that smoke from the campfire is entering all your organs, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, everything, and it's causing cancer and disease.
I always thought free radicals were just people on the street corner with signs.
Yeah,
Right.
So no, I guess not.
No.
no, not at all. Let me go back. Now you lost me. I lost my train of thought. Okay.
What you thought about?
So the free radicals are like smoke, okay? And the smoke is ruining your health. What you want to do is combat those free radicals with antioxidants. Antioxidants, vitamins, some like pomegranate juice, garlic, and we'll get into that maybe in the end. And these antioxidants are like the little Pac-Man games. They live off smoke. So the antioxidants, when you pour them into your body, they eat up the free radicals. They eat them up. And so you want more, of these antioxidants in your body than free radicals. You want to eliminate as many free radicals as you can and get a lot of antioxidants in your body.
So we talked about how our body is 70% water. What about alkalinity? Is that a thing, or is that something we need to?
I get these little
focus
strips
on?
at the health food store.
Yeah,
And they say
you test your own alkalinity.
I test it. They say if your body's acidic, some say, and I'm not saying this is right, but they say at some point in time you will get cancer. You will get cancer. And so they have little strips you can buy at the health food store and keep your body balanced.
Yeah.
And again, now I'm going to say something that people are going to hate, should I even say it? But I avoid red meat like there's no tomorrow.
I think that's a good conversation though, because I think a lot of people, I would think balance, because
Huge debate.
I eat meat, and I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but I do agree with you that too much of anything that's good for you can also go bad for you, right? Wouldn't you agree that too much?
Well, and I'm not so sure about the grass-fed meat on and on, but I just feel for me at this place in my life, I'm to be on as much plant-based as I can.
It's interesting. You go to a true Mediterranean diet. If you ever want to find that, take a trip to Israel, because that's what they do there.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting in Israel, they go by the old scripture, the old laws, and so they don't mix meat and cheese. They don't mix dairy with meat.
Try to get a cheeseburger.
Yeah, and so I was talking to one of the guides over there, an Israeli older man, and he was talking to me about the enzymes and how the enzymes, they cause problems with each other. And listen, I'm just telling you what this guy told me. But when I do know that when I was in Israel, my stomach has never been better. Like we were in the morning, it's weird. They serve you salmon and cheese, or
Right.
yogurt.
Right.
You can have your dairy in the morning, but then for lunch, it's just meat. There's a Burger King there and we went in one time, and I said, "Can I get a cheeseburger?" And they looked at me like I was crazy, But it was like there was something to that that aided with digestion too, because that's another thing, right? If you have poor digestion, then your body isn't even like
Right. That makes
receiving
sense.
the nutrients.
Yeah.
The Old Testament has dietary laws. And of course, they were freed from those.
Yeah.
But at a certain point in time, but I still look at those dietary laws. I've went in before and asked people when I'm ordering fish, does that fish have fins? Does it have scales? I start asking. But let's go off diet let's stay on diet for a second. Let's talk about, while we're on it, and then we'll go to other things. But what about healing foods? For example, I have another cancer that I'm dealing with right now that is not life-threatening. By God's grace, it's staying under control. But I've chosen to believe through what I've read and know that white button mushrooms and pomegranate juice really works against this cancer. So every day I'm eating, now get this, I'm eating your daughter, Ollie, my granddaughter. She walked in today and she saw my blender. She goes, "Oh, yuck, you got mushrooms in there." I had all these
That's
mushrooms
wild.
stacked up in my blender.
That's crazy.
And so there are healing foods that I think counteract a lot of different cancers. Now, again, I don't even know where to go here. But you have to understand that anytime someone tells you there's this food that's known to combat cancer, if you go on the internet and Google it, you'll probably have articles going, "That's nonsense, that's stupid," on and on. but you got to know who those articles are sponsored by.
Right.
A lot of articles on the internet are sponsored.
Well, plus,
And-
how many people, like, when they Google, we know this from marketing, like, you Google something, you're only getting the results of the people who have spent the most money on marketing. That have
Right.
spent
There
the
you
most,
go.
that
There
have
you
spent
go.
the most money and paid somebody like Vince to do their SEO, for
SEO,
them.
right.
Do you think
And
there's
so-
big companies that don't want mushrooms to cure cancer?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Well,
Right. The
yeah,
pharmaceutical companies
Well,
do not
you-
want you knowing that you can get healed
Well,
by.
there's
Not,
also
not all of it, but some don't.
Yeah, right.
Some are
I'm going
dishonest.
to remind you of something you taught me
Okay.
years ago. That lycopene
Yes.
is is very, very positive for helping with cancer. It fights cancer, and that's anything that's found in reddish colored vegetable tomatoes, grapefruit. Grapefruit's somewhat pink, so the pink too. But it's a cancer fighting.
Oh yeah. If you have
Substance.
high blood sugar, just try. I'm just saying try. Try apple cider vinegar. Look it up on the internet. Just try it. To me, apple cider vinegar has so many benefits in so many different areas.
I need to do that.
And garlic is another one.
And what do they say?
Oh my gosh,
when-
superfood.
What do they say? So, like, if you go to the salad bar and you get iceberg and just drown it in cheese and ranch and bacon, it's probably not the best thing, right? But if you go to the salad bar, what do they say to get as many colors in your bowl
Yes,
as
yes, a
possible?
lot of colors.
Because all the
Orange, yellow,
It's
red.
interesting how God created the earth, where like the color of the
Will
of the
attract you
fruit
to it.
or the color of the vegetable actually has a specific, health benefit.
I laugh
right?
at those people in the restaurant. They say, I'm going to be healthy today. And they go to the salad bar and they use the croutons to make a retaining wall. And they pour all this blue cheese and all this stuff. And the retaining wall keeps it in. They should have just went ahead and ate a burger, whatever.
Right.
But health foods, these superfoods, garlic. I tell you, if you want to avoid the flu season, eat garlic. Because you know why? No one will get around you to spread the virus to you. They'll stay away from you. But garlic is a superfood. Avocados, broccoli, greens, asparagus, spinach, nuts and seeds, vitamin C. Linus Pauling's my hero. Linus Pauling, look him up. I have already taken, and this is
How do you
not a good day.
spell? Do you know how to Linus?
Linus Pauling,
L-I-N.
U.S., I believe.
Okay.
For example,
look it up.
I'm not against taking 10 to 12,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day. But what you don't know about vitamin C, it's water soluble. And when you take vitamin C in the morning, in 2 hours, you have peed it all out. It's gone.
Wow.
You have to take it during the day or get sustained release. I am a big vitamin C guy. And green tea. My doctor told me the other day, it was my dermatologist in Camarillo. I told him I was drinking a lot of green tea. He said, right now, my buddies are big time scientists and they're in the medical field. He said, right now, they're just beginning to learn all of the cancer fighting things that green tea has in it. They're just learning. He said, green tea is crazy, fighting cancer, and broccoli. And I could go on and on and on. Flaxseed, oatmeal. Oatmeal, if you have high cholesterol, try taking oatmeal and taking garlic. Not together, but try taking them.
You know what?
Salmon. Oh, my gosh.
Also, for people that are watching their budget, as am I, doing the Dave Ramsey thing, right? Oatmeal is so inexpensive. It's such
it's
so beneficial and so inexpensive. You know.
And now what I do, I don't put sugar in my oatmeal. I cut up bananas and blueberries and put them in there. I do have, when I get a real sweet tooth, I have something in my cupboard. It's half stevia and half sugar.
Okay.
And I'll put a little bit of that in.
I use honey a little bit. I don't know if that's the best thing in the world, but I feel like it's better than.
Well, honey has a lot
Table
of
sugar.
natural antibiotics in it and stuff that is actually good for you. And they actually say honey, and you can look this up, that it actually helps reduce your blood pressure and sugar levels because of its natural.
I'm going to
thing.
reserve my comments on this conversation. You guys keep going.
No. I'm just saying,
I-
not a ton of honey. I'm not saying like you're going to drink the honey,
I'm
but just a
not-
little bit of teaspoon.
Honey,
I'm
of
still
not
sugar.
espousing it. I'm not
Right.
espousing it at all. I'm just saying. What
But when we go back to diet too, salmon.
I'm not
okay?
a health expert.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
don't get farm raised salmon, or you're going to hurt yourself more than help yourself. You want wild caught. Now I go to Trader Joe's. They have a really cheap frozen section. All these wild caught fish, tuna. I never eat albacore because it's high in mercury. Again, Bible. Go back to the Bible. Because of lack of knowledge, people are what? They're perishing because they don't know some of this stuff. And so you can Google this. I don't want to go on and on. Healing foods, foods that are not just neutral or not bad. They're actually healing foods, nuts and seeds. At nighttime, I like to have snacks. I'll get a bunch of fermented pumpkin seeds, and I'll get a bunch of sunflower seeds, put them in a bowl, and I'll sit there and eat them while I'm watching TV. And it's all habits, guys.
My wife feeds us kimchi sometimes.
Oh, it's really good for you.
Yeah, it's
really
good. For your
good.
gut. Kimchi.
Very good.
And I like to drink kombucha teas also, but they
So many teas are
also
good for
have
you.
sugar in them. So
But you don't put sugar in them. I
Well,
drink 5 glasses of green tea a day with no sugar.
I drink kombuchas. They're brewed with sugar in
okay.
them. So they're
Boy,
like
you're a
that.
lost cause, I'll tell you. I'm going to work hard on you. I got my first convert over here.
But you know what? My stress levels are low.
Oh, yeah. Well, I go eat 10 cheeseburgers tonight. My stress level is going to be really good, man.
I don't know. The science says that the more sugar you eat, the more your stress level goes up. So
Yeah, so I need to probably
Comfort foods.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about.
to a good
You
spot.
eat all this bad stuff, but
Well-
you really feel good.
well, that's
For a minute,
you're right.
yeah.
Because I think a lot of people do stress out and then they binge eat. Right? They binge the sugar, they binge the food, and then they think they're feeling better in that moment. They get that instant release from whatever the food does to them, and then you don't feel good for the rest of the
Let's turn a corner. Let's turn a corner.
Okay.
It's not only foods that's killing us. Drinking water.
Oh man.
I have a water filtration system. That's the first thing I do because that tap water is not, you say, well, I don't drink it. If you shower in it, same thing. So water is big. But EMFs, electromagnetic fields, I believe that they can change your DNA. You know, there's a lot of countries that they have limits on EMFs. Unfortunately, the United States is not one. And EMFs, I mean, for example, I saw some houses the other day that were built right underneath the 5G phone tower. And I go, what the daylights is going on there? Electromagnetic field. Some time back, they in California, they were putting smart meters in at houses. Do you remember that, Tom? Mm-hmm. And we were very concerned about them because some of the information came out that trees close to them were dying and everything. And so we have EMF meters at the church. And so we went out to people's homes if they wanted us to come and noticed that if your beds were right up next to the wall where a smart meter was, you had like, I don't know how many milligauss, high EMF radiation, really bad. But if you took and moved the bed 15 feet, you were fine. And so I don't know if I can say this. Should I talk about just 1 minute my experience? Or should I not even mention it?
You can, but I also want to talk about Wi-Fi routers. That's a big deal, right?
We turn our Wi-Fi off at night.
Yeah.
Right.
We unplug it every night in our house.
And you should, I think a lot of people don't realize how much, how many EMFs are actually coming out of their Wi-Fi and then the exposure of the radiation, all that stuff. It's a
now,
big
our
deal.
government will tell us a lot of articles
Yes.
that we can't prove that EMFs are going to hurt you.
It-
Other countries disagree.
If you Google, are EMFs bad for you? You might be doing that right now. What is an
Yes.
EMF? It'll lead you to the WHO website. It's one of the first hits. And it will say that there's been a lot of studies, but no linked studies to EMFs having a bad, basically being bad for you. But there also, people thought smoking was really good for them at some point in our human history.
But you always got to look at the ads, who's sponsoring them.
Right.
Well,
There
I
is a-
found this article that I sent to you guys the other day about it on PubMed.
Right.
And it's a .gov website. And so it actually sends you to another website, but it says electromagnetic hypersensitivity review of mechanisms. And so there are certain people that they're saying, and studies have shown that it affects certain people more.
Well, let's go back to something I'm going to say, and listen to me right now. I am not saying that high lines cause my cancer. I'm not saying that. But we lived under some high lines. They were some of the biggest ones in California. They brought electricity from Northern California to Southern California, or I should say from Southern California to Northern. And we lived right directly under them. And I got curious about them because I'd heard all these stories. So I started accumulating literature. And it said over and over again that living too close to high lines could cause leukemia, leukemia. Some countries are really strict on this. They won't have them near schools, on and on and on. And so I started thinking about it. One day I was in prayer, and I feel like I can hear God's voice sometimes. And this strong conviction came to me, move now. And it was like a redundant thought going over and over, and it was bugging me. And it bugged me for half a day. And finally I went into my wife and I said, we got to move now. I don't know if it has to do with the high wires. I don't know, whatever. We moved. 1 year later, I got diagnosed with leukemia. I was given 4 years to live. I'm not saying the wires caused it. I'm not saying they did, but I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting. And so another thing, okay, that causes health problems we don't think about is VOCs, volatile organic compounds found in building materials. I just redid my house in the mountains, redid it from top to bottom, and I made it green. There's a lot of really cheap floorings that you can buy in houses that emit off-gassing, like new cars, brand new cars. Some cars have worse VOCs in them than others, and you'll notice when you buy some new cars, you'll see the off-gassing on the windshields for some time. It'll be on the windshields.
Wow.
Off-gassing poisons. And, you know, you can find these poisons in the adhesives, in the varnishes, in the glues, the paint, the lacquers. They're in cleaning products, air fresheners, in flooring. So what I've done in my last 2 or 3 houses, like tile flooring is pretty cool, and I get non-VOC grout. My last floors I put in were true wood floors, and we didn't have any kind of glues underneath. We just snapped them together. And then one of the major box stores sells a very famous paint, and it says right on there, no VOCs. Now, why would that be important to put on the label of a paint can if people weren't sure? So all of our cabinets were painted with not low VOCs, but no VOCs paint. And myself, you know, and it's my opinion, you know, in a brand new home, if you didn't build it yourself, sometimes you'll have all these lacquers and all these varnishes, and you'll have all these glues and all these adhesives. And it takes almost 2 years for those to get down to a safe level of VOCs. And so I'm very particular about where I live and whatever. So I don't know if you guys have anything to say about this or not.
What are the dangers of VOCs? Like, what are the things that why would people care about going VOC or, you know, VOC free and making their house green?
Well, they can cause smaller issues like watering eyes, allergies, all that stuff.
Okay.
But they can cause cancers.
Okay.
They can cause cancers of all kinds. So they can cause, according to many,
right,
an overdose of VOCs can cause cancer. Like, for example, the other day, I was somewhere in town and I was going to look for something, and there was this tire shop, and they did something with tires. I don't know what they did with tires. And I went to open the door and had a big sign, entering here can expose you to cancer products.
Well, you see that sign.
And I opened the door though, but Josh, the odor, oh my gosh,
Wow.
you can smell chemicals so strong. Immediately I felt sorry for the guys working in there.
As frustrated as we've all been with the government of California at times, one of the good things that California does is they enforce each business to post that if there's any type of
Right.
substance. You'll see it at Starbucks, you'll see
Right.
it all over the place.
Well, you talk about compounding
Products.
effects, Pastor, like, because we're talking about VOCs, we're talking about, you know, eating healthy, all these things. But if all these things over time, all this bad stuff's adding up, it's compounding, meaning
There you go.
Yeah, because it could be
you
like
go.
the VOCs aren't killing you. It's not the sugar-free
It's
that's
true.
not killing you. It's not the diet that's killing you. But if you add them all
There
together,
you go. Bingo.
it's
That's
not.
it.
Yeah.
My wife keeps telling me that.
Yeah.
Now, for me, I was crop dusted when I was little. I mean, flat crop dusted when I was
crazy.
about 12 years old. Nobody told me to take a shower or
and
anything.
just so to be clear, what he means when he says crop dusted
right.
is he means literally crop dusted by
Literally
a
by
plane.
the plane.
Yeah, yeah.
Just me and my
I have
cousin.
to make that.
Yeah, you
me
had
and
to
my
make that
cousin were out
My kids would be dying
watching
laughing
this
right now.
plane, watching this plane crop dusting the fields, and we were watching it come right over us and soaked us. And then on top of that, you know, we used to stay out in Arvin a lot, and there's a lot of agriculture, and we always drank the water coming out of these standpipes, which that's where they poured their fertilizers in.
Wow.
And then on
I
top
think there's
of that,
your source right there.
at my senior year in high school, junior year, every day after school on summer days, I'd go out and jump in these reservoirs and swim,
Yep.
which was full of chemicals. And so I think it was a compounding thing that gave me all these cancers. And now I'm trying to fight them
Well,
with
there's
health
a
practices.
scare too that I think we don't know much about the effects of. I get nervous about some of the products that they sell for athletes and for lifting
Right.
weights and all that stuff.
Like
some of
what's
these
in it?
supplements, yeah,
Right.
like the chemicals that they're using, and we
This
all
is
know,
Tom's wheelhouse. He'll
I know.
know.
We all know that they don't. The FDA isn't involved in making
A lot of stuff is not,
supplements.
it's not approved by the FDA.
Yeah, right.
Well, how many pesticides quite possibly are put on products that are illegal in the United States, but they're put on our veggies over in other countries, sent across the border. Now, myself personally, I will not buy produce from Mexico unless it's organic, because they do use, I believe, some pesticides that have been outlawed in this country.
We buy avocados from Mexico. I feel like that's better because
You got the skin.
The skin is pretty.
Well,
solid.
I can throw a thing in here for ag because I was in ag 16 years at one of the world's largest agricultural firms, and when NAFTA came around, we were had to compete with fruits and vegetables that came out of Mexico. And there's definitely a difference between the pesticides you can apply in Mexico versus what we could apply in America, than let alone California. So you have to set our fruit next to something that has been basically, we had a substance called DDT that was outlawed in America, but they could use it in other countries. But we had to compete with the same price point.
That's the
with
problem.
those things. So
That's the problem.
It's interesting. Have you ever seen an apple in a grocery store versus an apple on an apple tree in an orchard?
It's not all shiny like that.
Totally different. Yeah. It's really interesting.
My dad used to work the fields out in Lamont when he was a kid, 15 years old, and he'd say they'd go out there, and he told me the story that they were spraying the fields. They'd go out there and pick, and he's like, "Oh, we just eat the fruit, or we just eat whatever was out there, the grapes or whatever. They would just eat it right off the front after they sprayed them or after they exposed." He's like, "We just didn't know. We didn't know any better.
We did it all the time. We never washed our grapes. They'd have this film all over them. We just popped them in our mouth.
And it's and swimming in the reservoirs. It's just all the stuff that we used to do. It's funny. I remember as a kid, they had these canals. We didn't know they were the runoffs for all the bad pesticides that were coming off. We would just jump in those canals as kids and just swim. And
we were drinking out of one of those water standpipes.
It looks like a Coke, like Coca-Cola. That's what the water looks like.
Oh, it was terrible looking, but we'd all jump in the summer of Bakersfield. What do you do?
We were 16 years old, me and my cousins working in the sheds out in Arvin. And we're drinking out of these standpipes, man. Because my cousin, who was 1 year older, said, "This is well water, man." We were drinking. And one day a farmer came up, tapped us on the shoulder. He said, "Boys, come here. All of you come here." Walked over the hill. See this reservoir with all those ducks pooping in there? That's what you're drinking. It's coming straight out of there.
Yep.
So I think what you said is true. The government, I'm not against them.
Right.
They're probably saying this alone will not cause cancer. And they're probably right.
Right.
But if you put all this together and you have all these practices together, they're going to cause cancer. So
It's funny when you look online and you're going to buy something online and it says, if you happen to buy this from California, we want you to know that it could cause cancer. But in all the other states, you just click it and you don't. It doesn't apply to them. It's just funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
Well, when I do a health class very often, I will take some berries, strawberries, and I'll say these are not organic. They come from Chile or whatever. I'll spray Black Flag on them. I say, okay, now you want to give them to your kids? No way, man.
Right.
And so, and I know, again, our audience, a lot of people say, well, I can't afford organic. I understand that. So if you can't afford organic, just buy your vegetables and fruit and scrub them good. And you'll still, the benefit of those vegetables and fruit will be way more than what little pesticides you'll get. So you could scrub them real good, but you have to work, okay?
Yeah, it's good.
And so
it's practical.
Well, going on processed food. You don't want to eat processed food. The no BPA linings of cans now. You notice that just came out lately? 5 years ago, there was no labels on cans saying no BPA.
Cans?
Right.
Canned goods.
Wow.
Canned stuff. But now you'll see in most of your health food stores, there will be a little thing in there that says no BPA lining. In fact, I won't buy a canned good without it.
Interesting.
Processed food. Processed food is basically anytime you take a food from its natural state and change it into something else, it's processed. Heavily processed food is known to cause cancer. If you take an egg, crack it, and boil it or fry it, you've processed it, really. But that's not real bad, but you processed it. And so what you want to do if you want to be healthy, eat as many natural foods as you can. Nuts, whole raw nuts, vegetables, fruits, whole grain rice. I love lentils. And the secret is I cut onions up all in them. I put garlic in them, and they're really tasty. So I know we're going back to food again there, but what else do you guys want to say? I mean, we have a few more minutes left.
One of the ones you taught me, Pastor, just talking about processed foods. I know this is more natural, but you talked about you talked to me about one time about farm raised versus natural fish, like wild caught fish. I think that's a good one. I think people don't know about that one as much. Like basically farm raised fish and the stuff that they're feeding them, and the things that
same way with eggs. Same way with eggs,
right?
You got to go. Open range. There's so many terms they play with on your labeling today. All natural. What in the heck does that mean? Right. All natural. And we buy it going, look, it's all natural. Right. Tell me what that means.
Isn't everything all natural?
Well, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, and you kind of said with the Kind bars, right? The packaging. You're like, oh, the Kind bar, it's a little healthier for you. But really, when you break it down, it's kind of a Snickers inside out. It's like the nuts on the outside and the chocolate. I mean, you say I don't know, but it's it's sugar.
I've looked at the nutritional value. It's much different than a Snickers.
Right. I'm just saying, but in general, you put something, just because something has a fancier package and it's looks like it's a healthier version of something doesn't always mean it's a healthier version.
Just because it's sold in the health food store doesn't mean it's healthy.
Right.
And then again, for our people out there, I really want to put an advertisement in for Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of good things there at a lot cheaper than you can other places.
We're not sponsored by anyone. So
no, we might be. I'm going to go to Trader Joe's.
You're going to go to Trader Joe's. Well, right now we're not. So, and so, we just wanted to share with you guys some of this knowledge. I don't know what our time is right now, but
I think a lot of people are starting their New Year journey and they're trying to figure out how to get healthy. I mean, one of the things you look at New Year's resolutions, one of the number one New Year's resolutions is what?
Health.
Getting healthy, right?
Well, most 1 and 2 is work out, exercise, and eat better.
So I think a lot of the things that we talked about today, if you're on that journey of trying to get healthy, I mean, one, diet. I mean, look at your diet. On our last week's podcast, we talked about the types of foods you should eat and looking at that, and then talk about sugar today and how much sugar has an impact on your basically daily life. And so I think all of that stuff is applicable.
It's habits. We talked about habits.
That's good.
I don't eat much sugar at all. And the other day, I did something and I ate a bunch of sugar. I told my wife, I said, I am so sick. I feel like throwing up because of a habit. I haven't been bringing much sugar into the house and eating it. And then for us, and I know it's different for everybody, you guys have small kids. Mm-hmm. What helps us stay healthy is it's not in the cupboards. It's not around. Yeah. It doesn't tempt us because late at night, I can be tempted.
Yep.
And that's usually when you'll dig through this. You'll look for something.
I know.
And anything will do.
We're potty training my 3-year-old, and so I sometimes will sneak and get some of her rewards.
If you bring the donuts home, you're gonna eat them.
Oh,
Tyler bought me a box of C's candy for Christmas, and I enjoyed that C's candy. I said, man, I owe it to Tyler. I've got to eat this. I had an excuse.
You never see Tyler, but he's behind the scenes. Yeah. He's our videographer along with Cabin.
Tech crew is amazing.
And, I told him, I said, I'm not going to eat these chocolates. I'm not going to eat them. He goes, yes, you will. And I got home and I just looked at them. I'm like, nah, I won't eat those. And sure enough, like you said, I came back, so I just started eating them. And once you pop one, it's like game over.
For the holidays, my wife bought a bunch of pies and stuff. She said, I'm going to hide these from you. Mm-hmm. And I said, thank you, please do. But I got a sweet tooth at night. I was tearing that kitchen apart. I was looking at I was looking in the closet. I went out in the garage even looking.
Did you finally ask her?
No, I finally found it.
Oh. Usually with mine, my wife, I'll look for it and she'll go,
so
it's
balance.
gone.
My wife always tells me, Ron, be balanced.
That's good.
Be balanced. Because at some point in my life, way back a few years ago, I wasn't balanced. I was, and I've been out with you guys before, and I've been really, really hungry. And maybe I didn't get enough on my plate. And I'll start telling you why you shouldn't eat certain things on your plate. Those things will kill you. You know that? Oh, I ain't eating it then. And then I will ask for your food that I just told you would kill you.
That's why I never listened to you on that. But anyway, hey guys, thank you so much for listening. We just want everyone to make better decisions.
Yes, that's all we want.
Healthy decisions.
And get started on something.
And if you fail, what do you always say? You say when you fall off the horse, what do? You get back on.
Get right back on.
And there's always progress in that.
Yes.
So we'll see you guys.
Love you guys.
Love you guys.
Bye.
You got your mama's sunshine. You got your daddy.